So, when it comes to the One Piece movies, they tended to follow a very similar structure to older style anime films like for the Dragon Ball series, or for Naruto, i.e., they could be good or bad, usually somewhere in the middle. Nowhere absolutely horrible. Some were quite entertaining. But it does always follow the trend that, in general, anime movies are almost never canon. For a lot of reasons they can't be, for a lot of reasons, unless they're adapting an arc, like some of the One Piece movies do, they are not integrated enough within the main story, and they couldn't fit within the time period to do so. That having been said, One Piece has some curious exceptions to this, so let's go over them. First, let's start with the fact that for a lot of the older movies, they are not canon. If they're not adapting an arc, they can't possibly be canon. Because they fit within time periods or stuff that just doesn't make sense and the adventures couldn't be referenced later. They're very similar to, your standard anime filler. The real question isn't what's not canon, it's how could they in any way be canon. So, the first one is probably the most impressive, is Shiki. Now, obviously, it has become more of a modern trend for mangakas to have a character idea or to integrate with the film producers a character who would be canon. Sometimes this is done in the film first and then integrated later, like with My Hero Academia, with Stars and Stripes. But then sometimes, in the case of Shiki, they pop up first, but there's just enough lore around them to have possibly existed beforehand. The most important one here is the fact that while Shiki probably appears in his film first, he is a canon character. His film is considered canon, if for no other reason, then he is a canon character. He was part of Rocksteady Zebek's crew. So, bearing that in mind, even if not everything in the film could be canon, he is. And a lot of people think he may appear in the mainline series, even to this day. So... And I mean, there's a lot of reason to think that he might. We have seen, in general, every member at least be referenced so far, and those that haven't are notorious exceptions for, the Rocks Pirates. Obviously, 3 of them becoming Warlords of the Sea, and others holding important positions like, being the leader of Fuloled. So I think that if the character was on the Rocks Pirates, that character will have been important in some way. It will at least get some kind of reference. Sometimes it's even just like Captain John, who got turned into a zombie in Thriller Bark, but they are interwoven throughout the series, and Shiki is there, but he only appears in his film. My guess is he will appear at some juncture later, even if only in a background character. Some people think he already technically has, because I hold the partial theory that he might be the character that was talking to Crocus at the lighthouse in one of Oda's news from around the world sections. And that brings us to, Uda. For, the One Piece film Red. Obviously not a character that would seem to be directly canon, but has enough lore built up and some collaboration, especially since it was the most recent film, that she could be considered a canon character, even though not having appeared within the mainline story yet. And that's probably one of the next ones, because that film was extremely popular, that I could see that character becoming canon. So if you're looking to get into the One Piece films, I would definitely say there's nothing wrong with doing them. They can be very entertaining, but it is important to keep in mind that for the most part, they are not considered canon. Not that they might never not be, but for the most part, obviously Oda does not have as much involvement in them. They're specifically not slotted into the series at all. And I think if we figured out anything over the course of more than 1,000 chapters, Oda really does have a plan to all this. And while he's clearly willing to take contributions and work other things in, there is a master plan involved. So just enjoy them for what they are, and maybe keep an eye out for some stuff that may be important later.